I must now change up into third. I took a deep breath and grasped the gear level again. Foot off the accelerator, clutch in, gear level up and across and up again, clutch out. I had done it! I pressed down on the accelerator. The speedometer crept up to 30. I gripped the wheel very tight with both hands and stayed in the middle of the road. At this rate, I would soon be there. Hazel's Wood was not on the main road. To reach it, you had to turn left through a gap in the hedge and go uphill over a bumpy track for about a quarter of a mile. If the ground had been wet, there would have been no hope of getting up there in a car, but there hadn't been any rain for a week, and the ground would surely be hard and dry. I figured I must be getting pretty close to the turning place now. I must watch out for it carefully. It would be easy to miss it. There was no gate or anything else to indicate where it was. It was simply a small gap in the hedge, just wide enough to allow farm tractors to go through. Suddenly, far ahead of me, just below the rim of the night sky, I saw a splash of yellow light. I watched it, trembling. This was something I had been dreading all along. Very quickly, the light got brighter and brighter and nearer, and in a few seconds it took shape and became the long white beam of headlights from an automobile rushing toward me. My turning place must be very close now. I was desperate to reach it and swing off the road before that monster reached me. I pressed my foot hard down for more speed. The little engine roared. The speedometer needle went from 30 to 35 and then to 40, but the other car was closing fast. Its headlights were like two dazzling white eyes. They grew bigger, and suddenly the whole road in front of me was lit up as clear as the daylight, and swish! The thing went past me like a bullet. It was so close, I felt the wind of it through my open window. And in that tiny fraction of a second, when the two of us were alongside one another, I caught a glimpse of its white painted body, and I knew it was the police. I didn't dare look around to see if they were stopping and coming back after me. I was certain they would stop. Any policeman in the world would stop if he suddenly passed a small boy in a tiny car chugging along a lonely road at 2:30 in the morning. My only thought was to get away, to escape, to vanish, though heaven knows how I was going to do that. I pressed my foot harder still on the accelerator. Then, all at once, I saw in my own dim headlights the tiny gap in the hedge on my left-hand side. There wasn't time to brake or slow down, so I just yanked the wheel hard over and prayed. The little car swerved violently off the road, leaped through the gap, hit the rising ground, bounced high in the air, then skidded around sideways behind the hedge and stopped. The first thing I did was to switch off all my lights. I am not quite sure what made me do this, except that I knew I must hide, and I knew that if you are hiding from someone in the dark, you do not shine lights all over the place to show where you are. I sat very still in my dark car. The hedge was a thick one, and I couldn't see through it. The car had bounced and skidded sideways in such a way that it was now right off the track. It was behind the hedge and in a sort of field. It was facing back toward the filling station, tucked in very close up to the hedge. I could hear the police car. It had pulled up about 50 yards down the road, and now it was backing and turning. The road was far too narrow for it to turn around in one go. Then the roar from the motor got louder, and he came back fast with engine revving and headlights blazing. He flashed past the place where I was hiding and raced away into the night. That meant the policeman had not seen me swing off the road, but he was certain to come back again looking for me, and if he came back slowly enough, he would probably see the gap. He would stop and get out of his car. He would walk through the gap and look behind the hedge, and then his flashlight would shine in my face and he would say, "What's going on, Sonny? What's the big idea? Where do you think you're going? Whose car is this? Where do you live? Where are your parents?" He would make me come with him to the police station, and in the end they would get the whole story out of me, and my father would be ruined. I sat quiet as a mouse and waited. I waited for a long time. Then I heard the sound of the motor coming back again in my direction. It was making a terrific noise. He was going flat out. He whizzed past me like a rocket. The way he was gunning that motor told me he was a very angry man. He must have been a very puzzled man, too. Perhaps he was thinking he had seen a ghost boy driving a ghost car. I waited to see if he was coming back once again. He didn't come. I switched on my lights. I pressed the starter. She started at once. But what about the wheels and the chassis? I felt sure something must have broken when she jumped off the road onto the cart track. I put her into gear and very gently began to ease her forward. I listened carefully for horrid noises. There were none. I managed to get her off the grass and back onto the track. I drove very slowly now. The track was extremely rough and rutted, and the slope was pretty steep. The little car bounced and bumped all over the place, but she kept going. Then at last, ahead of me and over to the right, looking like some gigantic black creature crouching on the crest of the hill, I saw Hazel's Wood. Soon I was there. Immense trees rose up toward the sky all along the right-hand side of the track. I stopped the car. I switched off the motor and the lights. I got out, taking the flashlight with me. There was the usual hedge dividing the wood from the track. I squeezed my way through it, and suddenly I was right inside the wood. When I looked up, the trees had closed in above my head like a prison roof, and I couldn't see the smallest patch of sky or a single star. I couldn't see anything at all. The darkness was so solid around me, I could almost touch it. "Dad?" I called out. "Dad, are you there?" My small, high voice echoed around the forest and faded away. I listened for an answer, but none came.